Now I want to bring in a member of the Intelligence Committee, Democratic Senator Martin Heinrich of New Mexico. Senator, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Wolf. Thanks for having me.
All right, so you heard the former FBI Director Comey describing President Trump as saying, quote, "I hope you can let this go," meaning the investigation into the fired National Security Advisor Michael Flynn. Do you believe, as Jeffrey Toobin does, that that potentially is obstruction of justice?
I think it's devastating. I'm an engineer, not a prosecutor, so I can't tell you what the exact legal standard is. But if the president said those words, I believe it's absolutely devastating, completely inappropriate, and I would leave it to someone like Bob Mueller to as to whether it's prosecutable.
Yeah, let me read that exact quote of the way it was described by Comey in his opening prepared statement. "I hope you can let this go," meaning the investigation into fired National Security Advisor Michael Flynn. He did also say at one point he agreed with the president that Michael Flynn was a good guy, but he didn't make any promises other than that. Is that an issue as far as you're concerned?
Well, I think it's been very clear that Michael Flynn's judgment was horrible. He was compromised. He had inappropriate contacts with the Russians. He brought up the issue of sanctions. He took payments and then didn't disclose payments. I mean, I think that if you're trying to defend him from investigation, you're starting from a very, very bad place.
At an earlier meeting, Comey describes this tense exchange with the president. Let me read it. The president said, "I need loyalty. I expect loyalty. I didn't move, speak, or change my facial expression in any way during the awkward silence that followed. We simply looked at each other in silence." How concerning is that to you?
We don't have loyalty tests in a democracy for chief law enforcement officers. There is no place for a president of the United States to exert that attempt at influence over the director of the FBI.
Comey's testimony, the statement also makes reference to that secret, unsubstantiated, salacious dossier. Comey writes this, and I'll put it up on the screen. He said this. He said he had nothing to do with Russia, had not been involved with hookers in Russia, and had always assumed he was being recorded when in Russia. He asked what we could do to lift the cloud. I responded that we were investigating the matter as quickly as we could, and that there would be great benefit if we didn't find anything to our having done the work well. He agreed, but then re-emphasized the problems this was causing him. What do you make of that?
Well, I think it's just an indication of he was viewing this as, how can I make this go away? If that's the case, there's no room for him to exert his influence over the director and to put himself between the execution of an investigation and the outcome of that investigation. If these charges prove to be true, if the conversations back and forth between Comey and the president prove to be accurate, and certainly we'll be able to get to the bottom of some of that tomorrow, I think it's terrible news for this administration, and really, if anything, he made the cloud a whole lot bigger.
Comey's testimony, and it's 7 pages that was released, seems to confirm that at least on 3 occasions the former FBI director did assure the president that he was not under investigation. What's your reaction to that? Senator, can you hear me?
I can.
I was just saying the statement released by Comey says that at least on 3 occasions he did assure the president that the president was not under investigation. What's your reaction to that?
That's the nature of investigations. At the beginning of an investigation, you may be looking at what Michael Flynn did or what Jared Kushner did. If those issues take you later on to the President of the United States, that is just the nature of an investigation changing over time. It doesn't mean there was no reason to think that he should not be looked into, and it certainly doesn't leave room for trying to put the brakes on a law enforcement investigation.
Yeah, Comey made the argument saying, trying to help the president, I didn't want to say you were under investigation, because if that were to change, then I would have to issue another statement, and you're better off not having me make the initial statement. You're going to have an opportunity to follow up this dramatic testimony, his written statement tomorrow. Are there specific details that aren't in the testimony, the opening statement, that you want to ask Comey about during tomorrow's Q&A?
Well, I'd like to understand Comey's state of mind. I also think it's incredibly valuable that he was able to create unclassified memos right after some of these meetings, because oftentimes if you wait 2 or 3 weeks, things get cloudy. Clearly, Director Comey felt under enough pressure that he wanted to document things in the moment. There's a great deal of value to that, and at the end of the day, the Intelligence Committee needs to be able to see those memos as well.
The written testimony from Comey released today, incredibly forthcoming, but you were clearly frustrated in today's hearing before the Senate Intelligence Committee with the Director of National Intelligence, Coates, the NSA Director, Admiral Rogers, Acting FBI Director McCabe, the Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein. Do you believe they were stonewalling you?
Oh, absolutely, and I think their silence spoke volumes. They want to hide the answer to those questions from the American people. They did not invoke executive privilege, so they have no justification for not giving the most basic answers to this committee.
So you've heard the criticism, some suggesting maybe they should be held in contempt for not answering senators' questions. Do you believe that?
Well, I think the American people and this committee deserve the answers to those questions, and we're not going to stop. We're going to get the answers to those questions.
The National Security Agency Director, Admiral Rogers, he refused to discuss his conversations with the president. The vice chairman of your committee, Senator Warner, twice brought up the fact, though, that a senior NSA official reportedly documented that conversation in an internal memo. He said maybe we should bring that official before the committee. First of all, can you tell us who wrote that memo, and will your committee call that person to testify?
I can't comment on who that is. What I can say is we're going to look at every witness in these situations, and if we can't get a straight answer from the administration, we're going to go to other witnesses to find out what the truth is.
Senator Heinrich, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us, Wolf.
We'll look forward to tomorrow morning's testimony.